Alright everybody, today I'm going to have another bit of a rant video. Not really a rant, but just a little bit of a from myself to you type of video. Not a lot of edits going on in here. I just want to talk about the topic of how to make music easy. Alright? Now, being a teacher, a music teacher, I come across many different complaints, many different concerns, and a lot of frustration. And this is going to help maybe mitigate some of that frustration. I'm just going to offer some words of wisdom about how to learn music and how to make it easier so that you're not so overwhelmed and, well, frustrated by the whole endeavor. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some of the most common complaints that I get from whether it's students or just people out in the wild. You know what I'm saying? And I usually get these complaints. They say, Mike, there's too much to learn. Okay, well, there is a lot to learn, and we'll get to how to manage that in just a little bit. Mike, there's too many chords, there's too many scales. I hope you don't mind that I have a book here, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to miss anything, all right? There's a lot to cover in these videos that sometimes I miss stuff, so I got my trusty little notebook here with some words written on it, and I think it's a very valuable thing. You should do the same, write things down, physically too, on a piece of paper with a pen, all right? Maybe a ballpoint pen, or maybe a quill ink pen, to be fancy. Reading books are boring, Mike. It's too academic, it's too dry. I just can't do it. Now, I do agree. Reading books about music theory and about scales and about all this crap can be incredibly boring. It can also make it seem like music is just irrelevant, you know. It's not a culturally exciting thing because it's being reduced down to this mumbo jumbo inside of an academic textbook, right? Some guy with a powdered wig or a monocle on is like, yes, my scales are up in the right direction. They're ascending and they're descending here, and we have a sharp fourth in there. That can get annoying. I understand that. And we're going to try and break that sort of division in the musical world because, you know, there's a big divide when it comes to pop music and competent music, we'll say, right? The pop music, the classical world, the jazz world, a lot of people who are just casual listeners have a hard time wrapping their heads around really complex music. And honestly, I think that's a shame because some very complex music can actually be incredibly beautiful. All right, and I want to kind of bridge that gap a little bit between the academic side, which can be way too dry, too demanding, it's just too much for the average listener. But also, take the average listener and maybe boost their musical IQ up a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. So, another portion of this video. I just want to have fun, Mike. I don't want to have to learn all this musical stuff. Well, I understand that as well, and it goes along with the academic and dry side of things being boring, right? I just want to have some fun, I want to jam out, I want to play some cool shit. Well, guess what? Learning how to play music as a discipline and really getting into it seriously is going to make it more fun in the end, because you'll be able to do more things, you'll feel better about your playing, and you're not going to feel lost every time you pick up the guitar. And you're not going to play the same Blink-182 song every time you pick up the guitar either, right? How many times are you going to play Damn It? How many times are you going to play Smoke on the Water? Unless you play Smoke on the Water the right way, which much more challenging tasks than I think people realize. Yeah, Mike, I feel uninspired. Well, unfortunately, inspiration is a very personal thing and comes from within. So if you're uninspired, that means you're acting a little bit uninspiring at the moment. And I understand the tank cannot always be full. The creative tank or the will to learn cannot always be filled up to the brim. We're going to get drained. We're going to get depleted. Just like vitamins get depleted from our bodies, musical notes and inspiration can also be depleted from our bodies. We can actually become sick of music, which, hey, that's happened to me plenty of times. Playing music every single day of my life, basically, it makes it something that's almost completely normal in my life. Like there's nothing special about music at all because of how often I play it. All right, and that can happen. And it could even happen to a student who's learning music. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. They lose interest because it can get boring. But unfortunately, that repetition and going through the motions is part of it. And you're going to have to be playing a lot of very simple things over and over again to excel in this field, so to speak. We're going to be doing a lot of simple things repetitively, okay? Now, here's the most common problem that I have noticed and that I have surmised from all of these different things, right? People make music hard because they get ahead of themselves. They move too quickly. They try to jump over an entire river with just their feet. They don't think, maybe I should build a raft or a skiff, if we're living in the 1800s, to get across that lake a little bit more easily than by foot. And of course, because of the laws of physics, our feet cannot simply walk on water. Unless you're hiding something from me, Mr. Jesus Christ. But that's the whole idea. Don't get ahead of yourself, right? Don't try to leap over an entire lake, okay? Leap over a puddle, okay? Leap over a sequence of puddles, right? Build a raft when you have to. See, the raft or a boat is sort of like the musical foundation. That's learning all the notes. That's learning how the notes work within the system. That's learning how the chords work within the system. You have to learn the system to really understand what's going on. And yes, there is a musical system that has a lot involved with it, but there are a few basic principles that, sort of get overlooked, and then people get lost, all right? So don't get ahead of yourself when you're learning music, all right? Don't move too quickly either. Make sure you get the thing down that you're trying to get down before moving on. Or if it's too difficult, abandon it, okay? And do something simpler, all right? Now, this also comes with having a hard time picking direction, kind of where to go, because there's so much to learn, right? Do I learn how to play the major scale? Do I learn how to play the minor scale? What the heck do I do? Do I learn chords? Do I learn this? Do I learn that? Well, my answer to this is that music is a holistic process, and you're going to have to learn all of it kind of simultaneously to really understand what's going on. And I know that can be overwhelming, but think of it this way. You have a C chord, right? Play the C chord, then immediately after, play the C scale. That'll give you a much better foundational reference point, and understanding that chords go along with scales, right? And then play a G chord with a G scale, right? Play all the way across those notes. Here, I'll give you a little example. We got a C, right? And I'm going to play the scale. Okay, and I'm going to keep that going. I'm going to hold on to the chord as I'm playing those notes. Those are all just notes in the C major scale, but guess what? It sounds musical. It doesn't sound like I'm doing some kind of... right? Some kind of warm-up exercise from XY Conservatory, right? The Conservatory of Magical Farts and learning how to play music at the Fart University. We're not learning how to play music at the Fart University. We're learning how to play music the right way, right? Play a chord, and then play on top of that chord using notes in the C scale, right? And learn how to play along with those notes musically, right? Your tensions, your resolutions. You can spend an entire day with this C chord in different positions. Ooh, that's a little out of tune, huh? Just goes to show you. This video is totally off the cuff, but it's fine. It's going to be helpful that way. Wow. whole thing is out of damn tune. Jeez, maybe we should go all the way back to the beginning here. Alright, anyway, moving past that, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, and you want to be able to pick a direction that makes sense and stick with it. Because if you don't do that, well, that's what's going to happen. Because of this, people tend to get discouraged and wind up feeling defeated at the end of the day. Which brings me to my big philosophical point of today's video. Learning anything is a battle with oneself. Any type of skill, especially music, is a war with your own head. A war with your own ego. A war with your own insecurities, your own faults. All the things that you unconsciously know are wrong within your mind are what you're going to be battling with. Okay? And you're going to have to just bam, 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 sort them down, gun them down, destroy all of those preconceived notions of who you think you are, what you're capable of, and what you think you're not capable of. Because if you have any self-doubt whatsoever, that's going to slow you down big time, and it's going to hinder your success. You're going to start music sounding like shit. You will. Your musical journey is going to start by sounding like total garbage. And guess what? That's fine. Nobody's expecting you to sound like frickin' Mozart, you know, the first 5 minutes, okay? And some people really do give it up within 5 minutes. I can't believe the sort of lack of determination that exists in some people. It's unbelievable. You got to slash that down, all right? And you have to understand that you're going to be battling yourself. You're going to wake up one day and say, I don't feel like practicing. I don't feel like doing this. Well, you better feel like doing it soon, all right? I hate to be a hard ass, but in order to progress, you have to gradually get to that point. Every single day, you have to be doing something musical. And if not at your instrument, thinking about music throughout the course of your day. When you're at the grocery store, you're looking at the watermelons, you're thinking, those watermelons remind me of a happy song, right? A nice happy song, and you have this in your head. As you're looking at the watermelons, right? The watermelons in the garden are green. The green garden is making me serene. You see, you're going to have those thoughts sometimes. And you might even have an even more technical thought than that. Say you're looking at a cantaloupe, right? You're looking at its, you know, sort of rough edges there. It makes you think of how rough your rhythm is. I got to improve my eighth notes. And then you start drumming on the cantaloupes like this. You get kicked out of the store, and guess what? You have another excuse to go home and practice. You can't go to the grocery store. You're going to have to tell your family, hey, I got kicked out of the grocery store. No food this week. I'm going to be a musician. That's kind of how it works anyway, yeah. That's kind of funny. Anyway, let's move on. We as people tend to overcomplicate everything. See, the irony here is that the mind is capable of anything, but it is especially capable of destroying itself. And that's one big thing that we have to realize. Our minds are indeed capable of anything we want to do, especially destroy itself. Remember that. It's paradoxical, and it could be conflicting. It presents a conflict, right? Your mind presents conflicts all day, every single day, whether it's a self-defeating conflict, like a lot of musicians sort of fall under, or learning musicians, I should say, or really anything else like that. And that's the whole idea. We have to learn how to overcome our own minds at the end of the day, all right? And sometimes just do things we don't want to do to learn them, okay? To learn these concepts. Now, the next step here is I'm going to actually offer some more solutions. I've already offered a couple solutions. Play the chords along with the scales so that you can have a better contextual understanding of what's happening. But I have a lot of other solutions that can make learning, I guess, the theoretical side of music, or the technical side, a lot more easy. And that is the first thing, Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's right. If you can play Mary Had a Little Lamb on every single chord, you're going to understand music a whole lot more easily from this point forward. And what I mean by that is we all know Mary Had a Little Lamb. Let's do it on C. Mary Had a Little Lamb in C. Right? It's basically just the 1, 2, and the 3, or the first 3 scale degrees being played on top of that chord. The 1, 2, and the 3. Now, every single chord can have 7 or more notes that go along with that chord, but that could be a super daunting task to do all 7 at once. So let's boil it down to 3, all right? Mary Had a Little Lamb. You learn how to play it on every single note. This is every single note, by the way. Going all the way down to the pits of hell. And it's all just the 1, 2, and the 3 of any particular chord. We can also do a minor version of this. Look, here's Mary Had a Little Lamb in C minor. That's the 1, 2, and the flat third of that key, which is crucial because those are the 2 musical worlds that define the entirety of Western tonal music. So you better learn those. But listen to that. Mary had a little lamb, Mary had a little lamb, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, and the lamb ran away from home and never came back because the lamb was not happy with Mary. So the lamb has run away and abandoned us because we didn't understand what we were doing. We were incompetent in everything in our lives. The lamb was getting frustrated and left because we were terrible at music. And that's what the minor Mary Had a Little Lamb is all about. So it's just the root, the second, and the flatted third of every single chord. All right? And major or minor, you have this all around the neck. So if you're trying to improvise something, you can use those 3 notes, your Mary Had a Little Lambs, to play maybe a part of a solo. Just change the order around. Check it out. That's it. That was Mary Had a Little Lamb, but that was a little more than Mary Had a Little Lamb. But if I'm just sticking to Mary Had a Little Lamb. You see, it helps you kind of look at the guitar a little more broadly as well. If you can find your 1, 2, 3s all around the neck, right? And identify where they are, you're going to have a much easier time playing music. And that's the whole point of this video, to make it easier, all right? The second thing I'm going to tell you, the second solution, is very simple. If something is too challenging, leave and come back. Learn something new that is very easy, much easier than what you're learning. Let's say you're trying to learn like a Dream Theater song or something, right? But that section is just killing you and you're not going to be able to get through it. Well, guess what? Go back to something so easy. Maybe Mary Had a Little Lamb might be a good place for you to start. But maybe like Smoke on the Water or something, you know? Just go back, play something that you know you can get through, and try and learn the entire song, even if it's easy, all right? Make yourself feel better. Get your self-esteem back, and then you can get back to the more challenging stuff. But before you can learn something challenging, you have to convince yourself that you can play it at some point, even if you're totally off base, all right? Rome wasn't built in a day, that's all I'm saying. Okay, number 3. We're going to learn how to change one note in a chord, all right? So sometimes you're going to have to change your fingers around, but what you're playing is exactly the same chord, just with one different note. And sometimes we have to do this. So for example, I just want to play on top of a C we know that this is a C chord. Let's say I wanted to add an A into the mix. Well, in order to do that, we can either bring this finger back to play an A6. That's just changing one note in the chord composition. Or we change the fingers around. Just like that. We're still playing a C chord, but we're adding the note A. This will help you to understand how certain notes act on top of different chords, right? We have 6 chords, 7th chords, right? Or we can do it like this. Look, there's a C chord, there's a C major 7th, all right? Or there's a C chord, there's a C major 7th. I'm just adding one note to that. Let's do a flat 7. I'm just adding one extra note to the chord, but not changing the composition at all, all right? Most of the chord is still remaining intact. Let's say we want to do it over a B. Changing one note. Only the bass note is changing with this. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make this work. Okay, an F chord. I want to play an F with a sus2. Take the pointer off, go back, sus4. Back to C with a 6. To a major 7. To a 6. To a sharp 5. Back to the 6, and then resolve. So changing one note can help you be familiar with more colors and different things that, I guess, tonalities that you can run into with different chords. There's a C major. Well, I want a C augmented. Now I want a C6. Now I want a C7. All of that sounds pretty cool. I'm only changing one note though, and it's the one on the top. Let's do the same thing with the bottom note, C minor. See how my fingers are changing? But these two are still on the 8th fret to make a C minor, and this 10th fret is going 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th. You can even go down one more. And then and continue it all the way down. You can even go down an F sharp. You can play any note. And it doesn't matter, right? You can do all sorts of cool stuff with this. Just by changing one single note in the chord, you can create a whole new moving musical world. And it's an easy way to make you understand how melody works, how harmony works, how different chords sound, right? Just like we went over major, augmented, 6th, flat 7th, they're all different sounds that need to have the proper amount of time spent with it, all right? So sit with each of these things, all right? Now, the next thing is very simple as well. Locate the root note, gosh darn it. How many C's can you find on the guitar? I just put my guitar down just to pick it back up. What do you think about that, huh? We got a C here. We got a C here. We got a C here. We got a C all the way up there. We got a C here. We got a C here. There's even more C's than I can imagine. C here, now. Oh, C here, now. You see what I'm saying? I even added a little bit of a pun in there. You have to locate your root note for whatever it is you're playing, all right? And if you can't locate your root note, you have to learn the notes, okay? Which brings me to my final point, is you got to come up with a plan for learning music theory. Start basic, all right? We have different fundamental ideas here that just build upon the last. Music is like math. If you forget one thing, you're going to lose a step, all right? You're going to have to come back. Single notes are the first thing you have to learn. Learn where those notes are. The natural notes, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. I have a video all about locating those natural notes on the guitar. And then learn the sharps, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E flat, D sharp, yeah. Learn your sharps and flats, learn where all the locations are for each thing. You might have to start on one string, okay? Go through the natural notes and then learn the sharps and the flats in between. Go one string at a time though. Like I said, don't get ahead of yourself. If you do, you're going to fall down a pit of despair and you're never going to get out. Now, the next portion of that is intervals. I also have an entire series detailing the intervals, and I'm going to continue adding to that as well. But intervals are just 2 notes at a time. So we have 1 note at a time with the single notes, and we have 2 notes at a time. There's a major second, there's a major third, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, root. Alright, so it goes all the way until you hit the octave and beyond, but the basic ones are within the octave, which you should learn how to hear all those as well. And this is where you're going to be spending a lot of time on your musical journey, is learning those different musical sounds. 2 notes at a time, alright? And it's 1 step above, 1 note at a time, right? And once you learn how to make sense out of that, you go to triads, right? Triads are regular chords. Like a C major is made up of a major third and a minor third on top of that. C minor is made up of a minor third with a major third on top of that. So we're going back to first our single notes, C, E, and G, being played singularly, and then we're going to our intervals. We have a major third here and a minor third here. We have a minor third here and a major third here. So triads are split in half by 2 intervals. Okay? Think about that. And the final step, well, not really the final step, but you just keep moving on with that. Once you're good with triads, go to 7th chords. Now you have 4 notes, which gives you this. Watch, I'm going to show you something cool. This is an A minor 7th chord, okay? Now, an A minor 7th chord are the notes A, C, E, and G. Those are the single note aspects of what we're playing, all right? Now, just like a minor chord, every other minor chord, we have a minor third on the bottom, a major third, followed by a minor third. Notice how they alternate. Minor third, major third, minor third. And that can keep going if you extend it beyond the octave. But that's it in an intervallic sense. So 1 note at a time, A, C, E, G. 2 notes at a time, minor third, major third, minor third. You can also go 3 notes at a time. Look, we have an A minor chord here, okay, on the bottom, but when we add the G on top, we have a C major stacked on top of an A. So when you play an A minor and a C major together, you get an A minor 7th chord. Alright, which is a minor chord in itself. You see what I'm saying? You have to teach your brain to split things in half. Alright, so if you have 4 notes, split them between 2 triads. If you have 3 notes, split them between 2 intervals. If you have 2 notes, split them between 2 single notes. You see, you can continue this division all the way down. Alright? The exponential growth of music. Alright, everybody, well, I think that's probably all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing all you can for this channel. I love making these videos for y'all, and hopefully you're enjoying them too. If you'd like to further support the channel, please go to www.subscribestar.com/RomanOva Music, and I also have a Patreon as well, so you can go to patreon.com/RomanOva Music and do the same thing. You can pledge a certain amount per month. I have different tiers set up that you can take a look at if you're interested. I also give private lessons on my website, www.RomanOvamusic.com. There you can just reach out to me directly and say, hey Mike, I need some help with X, Y, or Z, and we'll be sure to go through with that. Other than that, you can just leave a tip, leave a comment, whether it's a mean comment, a nice comment. I like nice comments, but mean comments are cool too because they push me in the algorithm. The more engagement that occurs on a video, the more viewership it gets. All right? That's going to be all. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one.